I don't remember that line in Waterboy off the top of my head, but it was a fairly forgettable movie, though funny.
Yeah.
And that's not being negative. Those are just Adam Sandler movies in general. Thanks for joining us. We're live. We're just waiting for a couple of people to give people a chance to join us. Sorry. And I'm just setting up one final thing and we're about to get started. We got one person watching. Thanks again for joining us. Let's go, I guess.
Let's go. Let's do it.
There we go.
Let's talk about this controversy.
All right. So we've got a lot to talk about today, but I messaged John a few minutes ago and I said, I want to talk about something first. And
It's a hot off the presses kind of thing. Not
yeah,
even presses yet.
I'm just trying to find out where I put my little, here we go, banner. It put it at the bottom. So let's go. So Adobe owns everything you create in Adobe. They watch and record everything you do. They have a right to it. And if they don't like, for whatever reason, what you do or how you do it, they'll take your software away from you. Adobe claims to have a license to everything you make and to use as they see fit. They can even sell it to someone else if they want. Like this is crazy. Adobe finds itself under fire for its recent spyware S terms of service update, which forces Photoshop and Substance 3D users to provide company unlimited access to their products.
Yeah.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I mentioned this to you, and you said you didn't know anything about it, and you started researching it. What did you come up with in the last couple of minutes?
Yeah, well, thanks to the power of AI, I got instead of reading those 100-page EULA, I got AI to kind of identify some red flags. So here's some things straight out of the end user license agreement. They have broad rights to access, view, and listen to user content through their automated and manual methods. The users themselves grant Adobe an expansive license to use, reproduce, distribute, modify, publicly display, and translate user content. Disclaimer warranties are very broad. The other one that really stood out to me was, this is crazy, mandatory binding arbitration and class action waiver, which restricts users' abilities to resolve disputes in court. The right for Adobe to unilaterally modify terms without notice in some cases. And like you said, they can terminate user accounts and restrict access. And they can even sue you if you're using too old of a version of Adobe.
Yeah, and you have to agree to this. These terms or be locked out. Here are the highlighted terms from the EULA. We may access, view, or listen to your content defined in Section 4.1 through both automated and manual methods, but only in limited ways. Using techniques such as machine learning in order to improve our services and software user experience. So they're planning on doing using, like I said previously, I think just before I hit the live button, everybody is in such a rush to have the data to train their AI. This is the kind of crazy stuff they're doing. It's like, hey, we own everything you have. We're going to analyze it. We're going to give it to our AI. We may sublicense it out, whatever. We're going to take it all. And just trying to cover their butt. It says not entirely true. It says we don't analyze content, process or stored locally on your device. But apparently they do. To develop and improve our products and services. In that case, you may turn off content analysis at any time, but apparently that actually doesn't do what you think it does. Additionally, if you use features that rely on content analysis techniques, for example, content aware fill in Photoshop, your content may still be analyzed when you use those features to improve that feature. So you must agree to be locked out. It applies to Photoshop, Lightroom, Premiere, and everything else they make.
Yeah.
So this is definitely crazy, but you definitely want to go in and turn these off. The desktop app usage. and the content analysis under account and security in your Adobe account to try and get as much of that as possible. And special shout out to Grums over there on Twitter, who I follow, who actually, let's follow him now. I wasn't following him on Twitter. Oh, that's why I wasn't following him on Twitter. $7 a month to subscribe. He's great. He's an old Blizzard developer from uncovering all this stuff. You may not agree with everything policy wise, but shout out to him for catching this and flagging it. Yeah, this is crazy. So if you're using Adobe, make sure you let them know that you're unhappy with this. Make sure you turn off those two things I showed you under account and privacy, desktop app usage, and content analysis. And be very wary. Like, they own everything you create. So if you're creating any content that you think you have a license to that might be valuable, they can do whatever they want with it. What are your thoughts on this, John?
Yeah, I think this could start to be their downfall, and I hope it is. The way that they've gone about things, and especially now, this is just crazy. I know that there are alternatives like Affinity, and I don't know if Affinity has the same ULAs, but I would recommend people to start exploring alternatives, but also look at the EULA. Look at the EULA for any other products that they're going to use. So there's alternatives like GIMP, Foxit, Nitro Pro for PDFs, and there's tons of different alternatives. But again, look at the ULA. It's crazy what they get away with. And I think it's funny. There was this South Park episode where, and I think it was the Apple end user agreement, where everyone read it except Cartman, and there was a whole bunch of things around it, and I guess people kind of forgot that because, again, here's another one that got kind of snuck in. So,
yeah, I mean, this stuff keeps happening. I mean, this is on par with what we talked about last week. I think it was Microsoft's recall, and there's another feature where they're spying on you, everything you do, taking screenshots every 3 seconds.
Oh, and speaking of that, it's been hacked already. So,
they claimed it was unhackable. They claimed it was this. You don't worry about it. No one can touch your data. And what happened?
It's hacked. Well, sorry. They found a way. I can't remember exactly. I just saw it briefly this morning. I didn't get a chance to read it yet, but maybe we can touch on it in another episode. But yeah.
Awesome. I just wanted to make everyone aware of this, just because it was top of mind and scary. Yeah. If you're a lot of people in our industry use it, and we have to start looking for other tools to maybe start doing this job. We have to start sending companies a lesson when they start doing this stuff that they can't.
I'm curious to see what Canva's EULA is, because they're in the cloud and all that sort of stuff, and they're getting really popular. So
absolutely, and they're going head to head. If you've seen a bunch of their new features and tools, I think they're not Adobe level, but they're taking a lot of those higher end tools and bringing them to people like me who aren't Adobe level people.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump on to this next thing. I realize I didn't do our introduction, but we're well into this now, so let's just go. Move over. Graphene Borophene is here. Better than graphene, this material development may improve implantable technology. So what's going on with this, John?
Yeah, so based on the article that I was reading, so the researchers apparently have synthesized the first chiral form of 2D borophene, and have shown its potential for advanced biosensors and implantables. So borophene has, and obviously borophene is, as you know or may not know, is derived from boron. So borophene has several advantages over graphene, like higher conductivity and flexibility. So what they did was they imparted chirality to borophene using amino acids, which allow for specific binding configurations. Now, chiral borophene interacts uniquely with cells and proteins based on its handedness. So the programmable biointeractivity, what it could do is it could enable a new generation of medical implants and imaging capabilities. Controlling the thing about this, though, is controlling the material cell interactions is going to be key for safer and more effective implantables. And the cells were found to uptake the chiral borophene platelets in ways dictated kind of by their shape. So it's really interesting. The thing is being able to chiralize borophene opens up an entirely new realm of biointeractive electronics. And this article kind of just scratches the surface of what can be done. But the synergies between material science and biology in this article, and we've covered this before, it just continues to accelerate innovation. So the breakthrough in synthesizing unlocks a lot of new biomedical applications. And again, this is new research, breaking research, bleeding edge research. So it's going to be interesting. The one thing to note is synthesizing borophene itself. It's extremely challenging. So adding chirality just further increases the complexity. So this breakthrough just demonstrates exceptional material chemistry capabilities. Really, really cool stuff.
So graphene is used in a lot of things. And you said a word there that I'm going to mispronounce. What does it mean to impart chirality to borophene? Chirality. What does that mean?
So yeah, so it's I'm still having difficulty wrapping my head around it. So I'll try to explain it as best as I can. Borophene, it's a 2D material. It consists of a single layer of boron atoms arranged in a lattice structure. So just like graphene is a 2D form of graphite, borophene is the 2D form of boron. The key difference is that while graphene has a flat honeycomb lattice of carbon atoms, borophene has a more buckled and asymmetric type structure. I don't know if you could bring up a picture if it shows it there. I don't know. Probably not. But this gives borophene some distinct properties like metallic conductivity, flexibility, and reactivity. Now, chirality refers to molecules or structures that are non-superimposable on their mirror images, similar to how your hands are kind of chiral, okay? So certain arrangements of atoms can make a material chiral if it cannot be perfectly superimposed onto its mirror images. So in this case, the researchers were able to synthesize borophene such that the arrangement of boron atoms gave the 2D materials a chiral form. So the boron lattice itself lacked mirror symmetry like what's found in graphene. So imparting chirality, what it does is it introduces capabilities because it allows the material to interact differently with other chiral structures like biological molecules. So for example, certain proteins and cell membrane components also have chiral molecular structure. So by making borophene chiral, the researchers enabled it to selectively bind and interact with specific biological structures based on their handedness. Think cyborgs, if that makes sense. Think cyborgs in this case, right? So the ability to precisely control interactions between an engineered material like borophene and biological systems, it opens up many possibilities, which is why introducing chirality dramatically expands the potential applications of this.
So I have a picture from one of the abstracts up on the screen for people to watch, and it kind of talks about what you were saying here. I'm not sure if people can get it from this picture, but it is what what we can pull up. Yeah. All right. So we talked about chirality, and so this is supposed to replace graphene potentially in implantable things. Yeah. So what kind of biosensors and implantable devices specifically could benefit from this?
Yeah. So there's examples that right away that come to mind. So implantable glucose sensors. So the chiral borophene could allow accurate and non-invasive monitoring of blood glucose by interacting with glucose molecules, which is really cool. You could have cancer sensors. So the chiral detection of cancer biomarkers could enable ultra-sensitive diagnostic implants and skin patches. Cardiovascular stents. So flexible borophene coatings could improve biocompatibility and integration of artery stents, joint implants, The cool thing, the one that I like, is drug delivery patches. So Borophene's reactivity could allow on-demand release of drugs through the skin, which is really cool. You could have biofuel cells. So chiral electrodes made of borophene could provide implantable power sources, which is cool. I think we were talking about a power source in a previous episode, or you and I were talking about it. I can't remember. Lab on chip sensors. So their thinness suits miniaturized integrated biosensors, wearable sensors. There's tons of potential applications for implantable devices for sure.
We were talking about, I think, clothing that had like tension stuff that as you moved it could charge a while ago.
That's right. Static. Yeah.
Borophene's unique structure allows for effective magnetic and electronic control, noting that material could have additional applications in healthcare. To study, you're saying it has biosensors, drug delivery systems, and imaging applications. Do you know anything about the imaging applications? What would you use that for?
It didn't specifically state in the article, and I couldn't really find much. But I do know that. So if we're talking about imaging, so the thing where I could see Borophene, the reason why they're talking about imaging is because Borophene's sensitivity to sensitive electronic properties. So it could absorb chiral molecules and could be leveraged to create more sensitive, more detailed kind of images. So it could enable kind of next generation optical metamaterials because of the sensitivity that it has. But I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure the specific use case for imaging itself and the actual details in that. No.
So have they tried putting this in a human? Do we know anything about the toxicity levels? Does our body reject having this stuff in? Do we have to do anything special? Long-term impacts?
Yeah, we're definitely going to have to. So it's a new material. So it's still like the biocompatibility is being studied and tested. So there's no long-term clinical data that exists yet. The initial cytotoxicity test showed that chiral borophene does not significantly reduce cell viability, which is compromising. So being composed of boron, it is less likely to be reactive, compared to metals like iron or copper that can cause damage. So long-term effects need to be studied. Impacts of its nanoscale and shape on tissue interactions needs evaluation. They need to test irritation, sensitization, potential immunogenic responses. There's a bunch. So it is encouraging, but extensive studies are going to be needed for this to determine whether it's safe for routine medical implantation, long-term use, everything. Because this is so new, they have a long way to go.
And what makes this so much better than graphene?
So what makes this so the difference is graphene is a zero gap semiconductor with extremely high electron mobility and conductivity. Now, borophene is also highly conductive, but it has an even higher predicted electron mobility than graphene. It has a metallic type conductivity where graphene doesn't have that. So it also has an unusual cone in its band structure, which leads to direction-dependent electronic properties, which graphene does not. The mechanical properties, they both have exceptional strength. The one thing though with where graphene is ahead is it is stronger and stiffer of the two, but borophene is more flexible than graphene. That's why it's going to be great for biosensors and things like that. It also has excellent mechanical stability compared to other 2D materials, even like silicene, which is the 2D version of silicon for those that don't know. But graphene can be produced a little more reliably and affordable, like methods with CVD. But but graphene production has been around a lot longer than borophene. So borophene just needs to catch up. But they have both. They have applications. They have both advantages and different applications, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it looks completely adaptable. It was comparing it to Lego. You can make whatever kind of structure you want out of it. So we've seen the first Neuralink implant. We've seen some interviews with the person who was the first survived implant or what have you. This, are we going to see this type of thing applied to that? And when? Sure. Like, are we going to see this in medical devices in our lifetime?
For sure. So if we're talking about timelines, so let's talk about kind of next steps. So in the near term, they're going to have to test it further for toxicity, for medical use. They're going to have to develop some biosensors and test those. I'd say that's the next 2 to 5 years. In the next 5 to 10 years, maybe implement it for non-critical consumer biosensors and wearables. Clinical trials are definitely going to happen for simple implantable borophene sensors. And then obviously coming up with some coatings for better tissue integration and things like that. And then 10 plus years out, again, regulatory approval of more complex kind of implantables. And that's, I think, where the Neuralink would come in is 10 plus years, where it would be, but again, who knows? Maybe Elon's already testing this. Who knows what he's doing there.
So when it said, we can do electronic and magnetic, and you were talking about cyborg. So am I going to be able to walk in a room and just think about turning on the lights and they'll turn on?
Potentially. I don't know if it has wireless. Well, I could use your skull as a antenna, but yeah,
put a little tinfoil on there just to magnify it.
No, your skull acts like like its own antenna. That's why when you hold your key up to your chin, you get longer range for your car.
Oh, for your key fob.
Yeah, your key fob.
This is new news. We'll have to make a little
really? Oh my god, yeah. Test it out. Yeah.
Oh. All right. Any last words on this one?
No, this is there's going to be a lot of research needed, and who knows, if we're still doing this podcast in 10 years, we can see where we're at.
Absolutely. And I want to, we're always on top of we're always talking about new and cool stuff. And speaking of new and cool stuff, we're hacking DNA to make next gen semiconductor materials. I felt like we've talked about this already, but I think they're doing this more and more and more. So what's going on with this one?
Yeah, this is the thing. I had to reread and because like I post articles and then we talk about them like weeks, months later, right? So I definitely had to go back and I was second guessing myself as if we talked about this before, but we didn't. So this, again, like you said, it's constant research is happening, advancements are happening, so new articles are being posted all the time. So in this one, researchers have developed a universal method to produce a variety of complex 3D metallic and semiconductor nanostructures using DNA as a scaffold. Now, just for those who haven't heard the episode before, DNA's programmability allows it to self-assemble into precise arrangements. And so the researchers were able to use vapor deposition and liquid infiltration to coat the DNA templates with inorganic materials like silicon, zinc oxide, and platinum. So the combination of DNA-directed assembly and material templating has enabled efficient exploration of vast material design space to identify promising structures for advanced applications. Now, just to give you some more information here, we did talk about nanotechnology and DNA. This has evolved tremendously over the past decade. So the challenge has been transferring structures to robust functional materials, and this is kind of, I think, the next step. So the vapor liquid infiltration of inorganic precursors into the DNA template, that helps to overcome the limitations of purely organic structures. So the multi-step process, what it does is essentially creates like a backbone while preserving the underlying architecture, which is really, really cool. Just to touch on it, metallic semiconductor and oxide nanostructures, they have applications in electronics, photonics, energy conversion and storage. We can get into that in more detail. But just to give you a little bit more background, DNA itself, for those that don't know, it has a programmable base pairing. What that does is it enables it to fold into highly ordered 2D and 3D structures like tiles, lattices, and even origami. So self-assembly, what it's driven by hydrogen bonding between two complementary DNA sequences. So strand design itself, it determines the final configuration. The thing with DNA nanotechnology is scaffolds can be tuned for precise shape, rigidity, and porosity, which allows them to bond it with all this other stuff. So there's a lot of advanced technology that's being used in this, robust chemistry, modeling software, sequencing tools, a whole bunch of different things that are enabling this, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, in the past, we've talked about self-replicating DNA robots, and we talked about gene editing, how AI is creating DNA blueprints, and we've talked about harnessing DNA for next-gen data storage. Yeah. And we've talked about 2D and 3D structures, but they were mostly RNA-based, I believe, if I remember. So can you explain how is this DNA nanotech being used in the field of medical nanotech? Like, I'm always great. You can do stuff really at this micro level now, but what are you doing with it?
Yeah, why? Like, what's the point of it, right? So a couple things. So I know I touched on DNA origami. So drug delivery, right? So DNA origami and DNA coated nanoparticles can encapsulate and selectively deliver drugs to targets like tumors. So the DNA guides binding to cancer cell surface receptors for precision targeting, which is really interesting. Again, biosensors. So I know we just touched on it with Borophene, but DNA can be designed to bind specific biomarker proteins, which will enable highly sensitive detection of disease markers, which is really cool. And medical imaging. So DNA nanostructures with high cellular uptake, they can incorporate contrast agents for MRI and fluorescent imaging, which enables non-invasive visualization of biological processes. This is controversy, but vaccines. So the repetitive surface patterns of DNA tile lattices, what they can do is they can display viral antigens to provoke stronger immune responses for vaccine development, which is really cool. We've got just talked about cancer therapeutics, tissue engineering. So DNA-based hydrogels could provide scaffolds for cell growth and organization, which it can be tunable to the stiffness to promote tissue regeneration. So the cool thing is it's biocompatible. It's nanoscale, it's programmable, and it's got a precise molecular recognition of DNA, which makes it an ideal material for advancing medical nanotechnologies.
And on the article here, it says they're already using their technique for other applications like improving microelectronic materials or gas separation membranes for hydrogen.
Yeah, which is really cool. I don't know what that application means. Maybe it's, but yeah, it's really interesting to see. So this is where it's not just kind of theoretical. This is where they're a little bit further ahead. They've actually bound these biomaterials together, and now they're doing testing and different things like that, which is really cool.
Yes, this universal method was extremely effective for producing 3D nanostructures of a wide types of material to such an extent that it surprised researchers. This says the team was able to produce 3D nanostructures containing different combination of zinc, aluminum, copper, molybdenum, tungsten, iridium, tin, platinum. And this is the first demonstration of its kind for creating highly structured 3D nanomaterials in a manner that's straightforward, repeatable, and robust.
Yeah. And the next thing is the surprising thing is that they were able to successfully produce so many different material compositions. So it's showing that it's repeatable, which is key to this, right?
Yeah, straightforward, repeatable, and robust. Ugh.
Yeah.
To prove the success of this method of each nanostructure, they developed the researchers leveraged expertise in world-class imaging facilities, Brookhaven Labs who produce ultra bright X-rays to illuminate the physical, chemical, and electronic makeup of the samples at the atomic scale. Like this is one of those things too, is it because the things are at so small, you've got to rely on these types of things to validate it. Otherwise,
Yeah. Exactly.
So,
yeah. How do you validate it without developing it and testing it in human tissue or human body, right? So there are ways, and they're being, so that's the other thing too, is they're coming up with innovative ways to prove this technology too.
So what are the challenges of taking this to mass production and start using them in nanotechnology and medical labs?
Yeah. So immune responses. So DNA structures potentially could trigger unwanted immune responses in the body. So they're going to have to come up with strategies to cloak the DNA against immune detection. So that apparently is being developed. DNA nanostructures could bind unintended cellular targets, leading to toxicity, which is scary. So they're going to need to do more research to understand biodistribution. Again, like everything, scale up production. So mass producing complex DNA nanostructures is still very challenging and expensive. So they're going to have to improve synthesis and purification methods. Stability. So the DNA nanostructures can be degraded in biological environments. So they're going to have to come up with chemical modifications and coating. Regulatory approval, clinical tests, in vivo testing. So many DNA nanostructure systems have only been tested in vitro. So they're going to have more assessment in relevant biological environments. So there's a lot of advantages in this, and the field still has challenges to overcome for practical use, medical use of DNA nanotechnology. But like we covered, like we've only been doing these episodes for a little bit, and there's already advancements happening, which is really cool.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. We see this and like, wow, it's moving fast.
Yeah.
And I love to see what they're doing here. And I think this group previously used this technique to reveal the 3D structure of DNA lattices with single particle resolution, and that was this X-ray technique they were using to check the resolution. How close? Like, are we gonna like tomorrow, 5 years, 10 years?
So in the near term, we're talking 1 to 3 years. I would say specialized research tools and kits will continue gaining adoption. So more people will be will be getting into the research and doing research. If they partner with biopharma, they're going to need more investment for proof of concept studies and different things like that. 3 to 5 years out, that's when they'll probably get into the scalable manufacturing methods to bring down the costs, and then advancements will allow for customizations for specific applications, and obviously we'll probably get into some regulatory review and different things like that. Long term, 5 to 10 years, potentially we'll start seeing precision medical applications. But again, it probably will be very expensive still. But if the regulatory gets approved and tests go well and clinical trials go well, there could be more mainstream adoption, like in molecular diagnostics, biomanufacturing, even data storage and optics. So DNA nanotech could be a commonplace within the next decade. Again, 10 years out, I really want to do like a time capsule and see how far away we are.
All right. Let's jump to this next one, which is a little more
Yes.
startup related and less science related. Top startup cities around the world. And as I scroll down here, unfortunately, San Francisco, New York, Beijing. I'm looking. Hey, I don't see us on the list again, John. What's going on?
We are not on the list, and I don't even know where we are. I tried to find out where we are. Um, so PitchBook did this, and I love visualizations like this. So they've identified the top 20 global cities for startups based on funding, deals, and exits from 2017 to 2022. Okay, so we don't have 2023 in here, but as we know, you and I, 2023 was a horrible year for investments in Canada, and 2024 is supposed to be even worse. So again, San Francisco leads by a wide margin, raising over 427 billion in capital with nearly 20,000 deals. And it's home to AI leaders like OpenAI and Anthropic, which has about 20% of all US startups. So strengths include, obviously, deep pool of tech talent, prominent VC firms willing to back risky ventures. So that's really cool. But the cool thing about this is there's some surging Asian hubs here. So Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, they're ranked highly at 3, 4, and 8, respectively. So what's happened from that, or the reason for that, is government funding in China has focused heavily on strategic tech sectors like semiconductors. And something to note too is Seoul and Tokyo are also major hubs at 9 and 10. The other notables, and it's not a surprise because these are known as tech kind of hubs, is New York, London, Singapore, and Tel Aviv. They all have strong startup ecosystems. And New York is known for crypto and fintech. London has more of a broad appeal. Singapore has some top VC per capita. But bringing this back home, and people say we have a strong ecosystem, and I don't know about that, but Toronto is absent. Just to put that into perspective, Canadian startups raised 7.9 billion in 2022 versus 330 billion in US. The Waterloo region, although is a major Canadian hub, it lacks the scale of US cities. It's outside of Toronto. There's not a great transit system to get there back and forth. There's a lot of hurdles to get Waterloo to even close to San Francisco. But there is advantages like a stable banking system and immigration-friendly policies. But there's a lot more need for, and feel free, let's have a discussion about this.
Well, I went to the source of the data on PitchBook. Toronto is ranked 28th.
Okay.
And let's compare this. Like you nailed it. You know, the cities ranked the highest in this article were San Francisco, New York, Beijing, Shanghai, and Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And they were ranked due to several factors. The highest capital investment, like San Francisco raised 427 billion.
Yeah.
Strong deal flow. You know, I see deal count 19,000, 13,000, 8,000. And you see exits 2,000. You know, you go down to Toronto and we're at 42 billion in investments. Nowhere near, like we're 1/10 of 15 billion in investments. 42 is
What's that number?
Growth score. Sorry. It's a growth score. Yeah. So 15 billion in investments, 2,000 deals versus 19,000, 203 exits versus 2,000. So you start to wonder about, you don't start to wonder, but those are why, Canada isn't in there. And these are, go ahead.
I'm curious of those deals in the US, how many are those from Canadian startups who have gone to the US and gotten funding? Did that take into account there? Because a lot of these Canadian startups are going there because these firms in Canada are just so risk averse, and so is the government.
Yeah, those are the things that have to change. If we want to start moving up on this list, there's things that have to change, right? We need more venture capitalism capital in cities like Toronto, and if you go scroll down a little farther, Vancouver's 38, and Montreal's 47.
Oh
So
wow,
these,
I'm surprised Montreal's so low.
yeah, and it really comes down to amount of investment.
Yeah.
3 billion, 6 billion, 15 billion.
Yeah.
So like I often say the money's in Toronto and people will look at me and shrug, but take a look at that, right?
Yeah. I'm curious if Toronto takes into account the GTA, like, or if it's just strictly Toronto. I'm just curious about that. Like, does it take into account Waterloo? I didn't. Did you find Waterloo on that list at all?
It
No.
only goes to 50.
50.
So
Okay, so probably not.
yeah.
I would
So
assume, but
yeah, we need a few things. We need probably some government changes. The government's moving in the wrong direction with things like the capital gains tax, where they're reducing the level. So even if you take the risks and all this stuff, you're going to get taxed more rather than less. Things like maybe, we need to be moving in the opposite direction, because we want these companies to be investing and doing well here. We should be giving them better tax incentives versus punishing them, because that's
yeah,
only going to drive them to invest somewhere else.
exactly. And if we're just, let's just be a little positive here for a second, because I know we're kind of crapping on Canada, which rightfully so. But we do have top engineering and STEM talent coming out of Waterloo, coming out of U of T, coming out of these top universities. The problem is they're just going elsewhere. We've got some great immigration policies to help attract skilled tech workers, but with SHRED, our tax credit, R&D tax credit, they're starting to audit a lot more, which is deterring people from applying for the first time. So that's kind of a concern. Another positive thing is, I don't know if we can say this is a positive thing, universal healthcare. It does remove a major concern of entrepreneurship around securing coverage, but how easily accessible is it when you actually need it? So, but to those outside of Canada, it does make it attractive, right?
Absolutely. Healthcare is expensive in the US, generally considered better in the US, but you have to pay for it. So, you catch 22, you're not waiting for months to get into for whatever you need to be done, but you're paying through the nose for it. So you better have good insurance.
Yeah. The other thing too is we're not good at storytelling either. So we do have some great startups like Shopify. What else? I'm trying to think of others. And here's the thing: I can't even think of them off the top of my head. So we need more branding and storytelling around successful Canadian startups. We also need, we need that for a greater international profile, and we also need a clearer path to help for startups as far as where they can go to get access. I know you and I are entrenched in this, and it's still a struggle trying to help these startups get the access, get them the help they need.
Yeah, we need a better ecosystem support. Definitely, that's why we do what we do at Toronto Starts, to help connect the community with all the resources, as many resources we can. We find sometimes we're a node between nodes, as well as a node ourselves, where people don't know where to go next and what help they need, and what accelerators, what funding, or what markets, or where they should be going for the support. And that's where we kind of fit in to try and push them in the right direction sometimes. But we don't have it really structured. We don't give enough money to the smaller level startups. We give all the attention to bigger startups. So we got to sit around, like we've talked about this before. And the ecosystem support to me means we need a little more structure around the $5,000 investments. Government should be investing into people, and when they reach certain key metrics, they should be investing more and more. And we should have places like 111 that are government funded, that but not 111, because 111 is specifically focused on scale up. So you've got to have raise 2 to 5 million, or 5 million plus, have 5 to 10 employees, just to be there. The
But
problem is
111 is a great example of a successful incubator accelerator that helps that turns out great startups.
we'll have to argue on the idea of successful, but they do produce, they do help the companies there. They have a great educational tool. Success, they recently went under and now are pretty much funded by the government. So I wouldn't necessarily, as a business, say they're successful. But again, this is what I'm saying. We need more of this.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily at this level because they're above a certain threshold. That's okay. Maybe these companies need to scale up. I'm saying we need more of them below that to help get there. More
Yes, we do.
Buildings like that, infrastructure like that, where you have mentors on site to help people get through it. And if people aren't meeting, the grade at some level, you got to move them out and move others in. And then you escalate them up. I'm saying the $5,000 level, $25,000 level. Now you've got space. Now you've got this. Now you've got that. And we're helping those companies scale. We don't make any investment in them until they reach a certain level hardly at all. Anyway, we've got all these incubators and I don't know how much they work because I got to say, and you can correct me if you think this is different, but I see startup. Oh, I've just been accepted in this cohort. 6 months later, I'm in this cohort, and 6 months later, I'm in this cohort. So they go from cohort to cohort to cohort, which is great. But that tells me, are they, getting what they need out of them? Shouldn't they only need one? Like, what is it that they're missing? What's happening here? Why are we saying, oh, I'm in Founders Institute, now I'm Creative Destruction Lab, now I'm a part of Antler, now I'm part of this, now I'm part of that? Maybe not in that order, obviously, but
yeah, you raise a good point. They're in multiple different incubators, accelerators, and I don't know why.
Money and support.
Yeah, they're not getting the round of funding that they need to just not be a part of those, right? So,
well, most of these incubators, accelerators provide some level of funding, provide office space and mentorship. So hey, if I'm going to get 6 months of office space from these people, let's just apply. And you got to wonder, so okay. And maybe you need that money. Okay. And maybe this program is for you. Okay. But I also, if you've been in 5.
Oh, did I lose you or? No, that's your internet. So, yeah, the other, you might have lost internet.
These programs. No, I'm still here. Maybe I'm back.
Are you back now?
Keep going. Just in case.
Yeah, no,
I don't know. Keep going just in case.
No, the other thing that is detrimental too is you're seeing Mars just laid off some people, Futuretech laid off people. Like that's not the direction that we need to go in.
Health tech is not doing well, or is going down, from what I understand. I'm not allowed to talk about it if I don't know if it's been announced yet. So, yeah, and again, these are funded wrong. Yeah. They're, it's great. You see, you got this person as the CEO, and you've got all these people, and why are we spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to do this? These are millions and millions of dollar projects when it's like, when we should be focusing on, the 50,000, 100,000 projects. How much it takes. So I can help so many more people with so much less money.
Yeah.
And produce a MVP traction level startups that are, now moving things to the next level at a much higher volume as a result of that, where someone else can now take them and move them on. But at the moment, you sit back and say, okay, well, we have to have all these super.
Oh, our host is having some connectivity issues.
Mindset. Am I going? Oh, that sucks. Can you hear me still?
I can hear you still.
Okay, I'm going to keep going because hopefully when we mesh this together, it'll all work out.
Now I see what you see when I have internet connectivity issues. I get it now. Sorry about that.
Yeah, and it's got to be something either with the host or because I see the images drop and stuff, but I'm not getting any indication that we have a bandwidth issue or anything, so I'm not sure. Anyway, I can't remember where I was ranting because of this stuff, but the point being is we're focusing on, if you build these multi-million-dollar structures and all this money is going to employees, it's not going to help the startups. And we have to decide, you start approaching these things. I remember early on talking to some people at Mars and talking about what we did, and they didn't believe that we did all this stuff.
Yeah.
Because they're $100,000 employee and they get paid to do this little thing. It's like, okay, well, you're not really in it for the startup ecosystem. I don't give a crap what anybody says. You're in it because it's a paycheck and you're doing this 9 to 5. And now it's hard to find people who would do it willingly and whatnot. But, it's not the startup mindset. And you're really finding the wrong people to do the support for these things. And this is why it's struggling, why Futuretech is struggling, why Mars and all these things. I'm not very popular when I talk about these things. Sorry, it is what it is. But you build all this heavy structure,
Yeah.
I have a saying, and it's not necessarily popular, but who makes the worst founders?
Who?
Product managers.
Yeah.
You know why? They can't do anything unless I have a CEO and I've got a marketing officer. And like every startup proposal I get from a product founder I got to hire 5 C-level people before I can even start.
Yeah.
Like, okay. Because you need to have all this, structure and team and all this stuff. It's like, that's insane. And that's what it sounds like, all this infrastructure and all this money's going through and all these big parties and whatnot. It's great. But what are we producing? Why are we 28th? Are we saying, all right, we want to we need more capital, we need more this, we need more exits. What are we doing about it? Are we targeting the stuff that move the needle? Are we just patting ourselves in the back and saying, oh, hey, we're doing some stuff over here?
Yeah, exactly. I think we're just at the point where we're like, hey, yeah, we're doing some stuff and our risk is low and that's it. And that's not okay, because that's not what innovation is. Innovation is about taking risks. Innovation is about moving the needle forward. It's about growing and taking chances and failing too.
Absolutely. So let's just end that there. And what else you got going on, John?
Actually, I am excited. I have nothing going on. I do have a dinner. Ryan Wong's dinner next, hosted by Ryan Wong. It is a roundtable on entrepreneur burnout, legal, and project management operations. I'll post the link in here for you. So that's happening Tuesday, June 11th, which will be interesting. It'll be fun. There's some peer-to-peer feedback. There's going to be some discussions, some presentations. It's at Casa Mescal on Church, which will be interesting. So there'll be 3 roundtable discussions, which will be interesting.
And we're talking about government funding. You help startups get funding, and when should they talk to you?
Yeah. So talk to me the second you start working on your idea. I might not be able to help so much, but I can at least help give you some incentives or some information on where to focus and what is potentially available to you when you reach certain levels. But ideally, if you have a couple employees that you're paying and you're developing something, reach out to me. I'm happy to help out and have that discussion. And that's the other thing, is the disconnect is most of the funds are for, you must be incorporated for at least 2 years. You must have some revenue, or you must have employees and different things like that. So there's a disconnect there. But Startup Investor Drinks.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention our next one is June 20th. It's the Collision After Party. We're almost 200 tickets gone already. It's usually our biggest event of the year. Looks like we'll be giving away tickets to the Futurist Conference. We're going to have chicken wings. There are going to be discounts in our swag bags. There's lots of stuff. It's going to be a great time. There's going to be more investors from out of town. Those people don't know I have a media pass to Collision. Shh, don't tell anybody. So I'll be in the media booth and I'll be talking to investors and getting as many of them to come to our event. So that's the day to pitch. So get your tickets at startupdrinksto.com. If you're going to Collision, we're offering probably another 75. I'm opening up 10 a day as we go. free tickets for if you have a collision badge. You have to show your badge at the door, but you need to get those tickets because we have limited space and we need to limit the amount of people.
Yeah.
Otherwise we break fire codes and stuff and people get mad at me, and I'm not prepared to do that. So hopefully we will see you there. Get your tickets there. Otherwise, if you're not coming to Collision, this is a great time to still be a part of it. Like I said, we're going to have the most investors from out of town. It's going to be a packed event. It'll be a great time for this to come. You can still buy a regular ticket, $25. You can get a 1-minute pitch ticket, or even a sponsored ticket where you can get a table and 2 minutes to pitch and some other stuff. So depending on what you want, it's a great time. And any ticket can give you a 20-second pitch. It's open bar. We have pizza, and you can sign up for the open pitch when you get there. If you're in the room, you can pitch. You just have to sign up for it.
It's a great event.
All right, that's it for now. Anything else you want to talk about, John?
No, we cover a lot, some controversial topics, which is always great. So always fun to talk with you, Craig.
Yeah, and we'll see you again next Thursday. Have a good one, everyone.
Thanks so much. Take care. Bye.